Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. And yes, this is quite a bad internet day. So you may or may not get video depending on what goes on here. How I'm going to get these videos uploaded. I'm working with Jolene, the other half of the daily working partner here at the Prepared Mind Network. Very difficult trying to figure this out, how to get these videos up. It's super important to get them out. What also is super important is yesterday there was talk that Trump is working with the NRA and is not going to do any anti-gun legislation. He's done an about face, and it's really riled up the leftists, the socialists who thought they were going to get their gun control because of these mass shootings. What I've noticed with President Trump is something will happen or something needs to happen. And what he does is he will stall. And the other half of the parties, right, the other half of the equation, they're in a hurry or they have a goal they want to accomplish. And as they're forced to wait, right, and I know this is art of the deal stuff, whether it's in the book or not. If they're forced to wait, they become impatient. They want to make a deal. They want to get what they want. So Trump, what he does with gun control, and I think the only thing he's really done is the bump stock thing, but for the most part, he's just stalled and not done anything as far as more gun control. He's doing the same thing with China, and he's doing the same thing with the economy in the United States of America. And he's simultaneously doing the China-U.S. economy deal. China is making plans whether there's a deal or no deal, right? Starting to sound like that TV show, Deal, No Deal. Do we have a deal or not? Trump is stalling everybody. Everybody in the United States economy, whether we're acting as businesses and employees or whether we're acting as investors, we're waiting for something to happen, a decision on the China deal. Instead, we've gotten platitudes, we've gotten what ifs and maybes, and it looks like it's going to be good, and we've gotten it's very close, but in all truth, we've gotten nowhere. In fact, things have gotten worse, right, with the tariffs and the trade deals. I am under the belief, the impression, the understanding that President Trump is stringing everyone along, trying to get the best deal out of them as they continue to suffer. Unfortunately, it is my belief that as Americans, we're suffering through this. Investors are continuing to look for the FOMO, the fear of missing out, good deal, the big return. But that position is starting to weaken as more money is flowing into safe havens. A lot more money into bonds, into dollars, and into precious metals. We're really seeing an understanding now that this isn't going to get better. If China is saying, look, if you're not going to make a deal with us, we're going to make plans on our own. That's what they're going to do. They need to have an alternative plan as well. This game is not going to continue as it is because the game is broken. You see, that's the dirty secret that no one wants to admit. The system is so broken, it can't be fixed. The Federal Reserve has tried doing nothing as long as Trump was stalling on the China China trade deal. And what happened? Things got worse and worse. Chairman Powell finally had to lower the prime rate. He called it, a mid-cycle adjustment. But there's already a call for that and even more next month. Because whether they do nothing or they do something, it's going to just make things worse. Because as something continues to break and fall apart, it causes more and more calamity along the way. Right? As things break, it puts more tension and more pressure on the remaining legs that are holding up the system, the table. So by doing nothing, the economy's gotten worse. If Powell leaves rates alone, it gets worse. If he raises rates, it gets worse in one way a lot faster. If he lowers rates, it makes things worse in another way a lot faster. China's got the same problem with Trump. They need to make a deal. They need to make a deal. But whether there's a deal or not, the American consumer does not have the money to throw at China all of a sudden because we get a 10% discount. Right? Whether we pay the tariff or China pays the tariff, the price of the product is higher and we pay the tariff. Or China gets hurt and they make less money. Either way, whether we're not buying their stuff or whether they pay a tariff, they're getting hurt and they want this done. They need it done. But unfortunately, any action, no action, and then talking about we're almost there, we're getting there, we're working on it, we got a meeting next week. What that has done is kicked the can down the road. It's extended the time based on hope and the belief that the economy is going to get better. So businesses as well as Wall Street are waiting for this deal, believing that it can be fixed, when in fact it can't be fixed, right? I don't know if you've ever operated machines where you're like, oh no, this thing is starting to break. If I go real slow and careful, I can get some more use out of it. If I go really hard and fast, maybe I'll get this little job done. And if I continue at this pace, it's just not looking good. That's the system we've got. Our economies internationally, our banking systems internationally, our currencies internationally are all tied together. They're all interconnected on a national and international level. It's coming down. It's breaking so they can go really fast, right? And try and get the job done, but it's not going to get the job done. The economy isn't something that starts and ends in a day. It's perpetual. It needs to continue all the time. So we've got this trouble, right? And China has now got another plan. Trump has several plans. I know he does. And they keep trying to decide which one works, which one is best. They've been doing the let's do nothing and then say we're doing something. That's the one that's working the best for him. It's getting him the furthest down the road. In my opinion, that is going to have catastrophic results. I don't see any scenario that doesn't. As we're doing very little to nothing with the economy, right? Portions of the economy are starting to show weakness. We've talked about earlier today trucking. We've talked about people's vacations. The auto market is very soft. There's softness everywhere because a decision isn't being made, right? We're all waiting. We're twiddling our thumbs. In the meantime, while waiting, have you noticed that when you sit around at the DMV or in the doctor's office, we pretend to do stuff? Well, we can do a little bit on our phones. We can read a magazine and consider that productive because we're entertaining and learning. But you're really doing a lot less than you otherwise would be. So this plan that Trump has been executing, while it is creative, it is ingenious in a way, it's also just stalling the inevitable. And a lot of us like to take action. The action that you and I can take while we're getting this stall is to get prepared with food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, and a means of self-defense. That's really the most productive thing we can do, is get prepared. Because the machine is broken, and it's breaking more every day. It is failing more and more every day. And we're being failed as the people of this country and the people of the world by our individual governments and the collective government cooperative structure that's out there. They have failed us, and they're continuing to fail. Whether they want to be globalist and all work together, or whether they want to be nationalist and protect their nation first, right, and be strong nationalists. Either way, it's causing the failure. And never mind who caused it and why and where the money went. That is not going to be solved. That we're never going to get to see on the nighttime news. We're not going to see the bankers lined up in handcuffs and taken to jail. We're never going to get to see that. What we're going to get to see is news stories of food lines, bread lines, meat lines. We're going to see news stories of people standing outside their banks holding their dicks because they don't have any money and the bank is closed. Those are the types of things we're going to see. We're going to see store shelves empty. We're going to see looting and rioting. This is the essence of shit hits the fan, and it comes from systemic failures from the micro up to the macro levels of government and even the international. The reason we're seeing nationalist movements like that in the United States, Britain, Italy, you could even say China, as they're coming up with alternative plans that don't involve the United States. They're becoming more nationalist. We don't need the U.S., screw the U.S., is what they're saying over in China. The reason they're doing that is they're realizing we need to have an alternative plan. We're starting to look internal. If looking external has failed, they're going to look internal. That's what Italy's doing, is we can't handle the world. We got to take care of ourselves, so immigrants get out. Britain is saying it's costing us more money to be in the EU than to not. Let's get out. Right? So all countries are doing what they can and looking. And these aren't regular political moves. These are emergency moves. When a country becomes protectionist and it cuts trade and starts doing tariffs on exports and imports, when a country withdraws from international cooperative agreements, that is a defensive move, and it comes as a result of an emergency that's perceived or upon them. These are emergency measures we're witnessing. The call for QE, more quantitative easing, the call for money printing, the call for lower interest rates, those are all emergency measures that are being talked about more and more openly. All while the government is telling us, don't worry, we've got plans, we're having some talks, everything will be fine, right? They're saying we got a deal when in fact there is a no deal moment coming. And when that no deal moment is announced, if they ever bother to announce it, we don't know if they will, we're going to have more crap to deal with. And as they slide us along and say, we've got a deal coming, and we've almost been dealing with this we got a deal coming talk for almost a year now. Not when the problems first started, but rather when they started telling us, oh yeah, we've got a deal coming, right? Even if they continue to do that and never admit that there's a problem, the problem is coming anyways, right? The problem is coming anyways. If your house is in the middle of a floodplain, keeping the front door shut and not looking at the problem isn't going to keep the water from rising and coming up to your door. That's what we've got. We've got a flood of debt. And we've got consequences. We have the consequences that are coming, and they can't be stopped by shutting the door, lowering the blinds, putting cotton in our ears, right? Ignoring the news, the real news, and just listening to the good stuff. It is not going to make things better, right? It doesn't stop the bad things from happening. It has been a long and slow and painful process watching all of this happen. Since 2008, many people have woken up and said, what the hell is going on in the world? It's taken a long time to get from there to here. But the distance, I believe, from here to shit hitting the fan is much smaller than it was getting from 2008 to where we are now. I'm not screaming from the rooftops. I'm not trying to shout, we're all going to die. I'm saying we need to get ready with food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, and a means of self-defense with our plan, because chance favors the prepared mind. Deal or no deal? What are you going to do? You've got to make a deal with yourself. Make a decision and take action on it. I'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you, and bye-bye.